Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Job Breakdown. Today we take a look at the Paladin. The Paladin has been given a couple new changes, a reworked kit in a lot of ways when it comes to not just how tanking's done, but also how its effectiveness works, the way its rotation works. The different phases that Paladin had before have been streamlined, and I think the new Paladin is actually a lot of fun. Of course, Iron Will is your new take stance instead of Shield Oath, Sword Oath. You get that at level 10 now, so you're going to have it right away to be able to use in the first dungeons. It makes holding aggro a breeze. Tanking is so much easier on Paladin. Even if you did lose a couple of GCD defensive cooldowns for the changes, I think it's still definitely worth it. And with the way that the Oath Gauge works now, where you build it whether you're in tank stance or not, I do think it's going to balance out over the course of play for your usage of Celtron and Intervention. That is still really the only things that you'll be using the gauge for. You now also have to use it for cover, but it's just those three. You're not going to be using it offensively. It's almost always going to be defensively. However, your other offensive phase, your MP phase, has been drastically changed and feels so much better now. Instant cast with your Holy Spirits, being able to get in the 4 Holy Spirits followed by a Confiteor that has quite a bit of range on it. Does some really solid damage. It does even more if you use it first, but it ends your Requiescat period. So that your rotation now is use your Requiescat, then use your Sword Oath stacks that come with Atonement, that come off of using Royal Authority in a combo to get your MP really quickly back up again. By the time Requiescat comes off cooldown, you should have a full bar of MP again if you're not having to cast it for anything else, which is really satisfying. It's a lot more fun than having to spam Riot Blade with Fast Blade combo and Spirits Within to try and get your MP back, just so you can do another Requiescat combo. You also have the addition of Holy Circle, which allows you to do the big AoE magic attacks, and you can do that with your Requiescat as well. It looks very pretty. It hits really hard. It's not bad at all. It's not quite as damaging as, like, say, a Holy, but it still does quite a bit of damage. And then, of course, Confiteor is just a nuke. And we'll use it in a minute with a full MP bar so you can see how much damage it does with a full MP bar. I think the Paladin now is just a lot of fun to play. Weaving in all of your off GCDs, weaving in your Requiescat combo, making sure you have your Atonement coming in. Because Atonement hits pretty hard as well. I believe it is, it's a 550 potency attack. And with that MP regen, it's just really nice. You still have access to Divine Veil. You still have access to Clemency. You still have your dot in the form of Goring Blade. You're going to be putting out quite a bit of damage, and as far as logs are concerned, it looks like Paladin's one of the top DPS right now when it comes to tanks. I really enjoy the changes they made to Paladin. There's not much that I would fix. In fact, I don't really have any complaints with Paladin other than the defensive cooldowns, especially at low level. You don't have that many. You get your Rampart, and Sentinel doesn't come in again until 38, and then Sheltron is 35. So in that gap between 15 and 35, you're relying completely on Rampart and Arm's Length for the most part. And it's not a great feeling when you only have the one defensive cooldown and you're getting hit by a lot of stuff. But at the same time, you do still have the ability to block, which a lot of the other tanks don't have. So you will block damage that you otherwise would have taken, which is very nice. Then you, of course, still have Passage at Arms that you get at 70, which is another defensive cooldown that always looks amazing and covers your entire team for a decent little chunk of time. 18 seconds is not bad at all, though you do have that like 2-second startup on it. Divine Veil utility is definitely not something to be afraid of. Using it and then getting a heal off, either by healing yourself to be able to give the party that shielding, or somebody else healing you. It's pretty nice, and you get it back pretty quickly as well. All told, I think Paladin's really solid. We'll get our MP back up to full here, and we'll show off Requiescat straight into Confiteor. And it does remove your stack of Requiescat to do that kind of damage, which, as you can see, it's not bad at all. Pretty good damage. But you will then no longer have Requiescat up to be able to get the extra damage buff on your MP using abilities. So your regular rotation for single target is going to look something like this. You'll start off by... Well, Requiescat's not up, but you'll start off by putting up a Goring Blade, and then if Requiescat is up, you will then go into your Requiescat combo, weaving in, of course, your Circle of Scorn and your Spirits Within. If Requiescat's not up, then you go straight into your Sword Oath with Atonement, for the damage there. And then just keep up balancing those two, keeping your dot active, weaving in your off GCDs, trying to get as much damage as you can, making sure to use your fight or flight to be able to get that extra damage in, using a rampart, balancing out your defensive cooldowns if you're main tanking. If you're not main tanking, then you're going to want to mainly just focus on doing as much damage as you can. Going into that Requiescat window, and what I normally do is 4 Holy Spirits followed by Confiteor. You can spam Confiteor for more damage, just use it immediately if you want, though I don't personally recommend that, because it adds up to more damage all told if you do both together. That is your bread and butter when it comes to your solo target rotation. It's way easier now than having 2 separate combos, because you have 2 separate combo abilities instead that go into that atonement. And then your AoE rotation is very simple as well. It's Total Eclipse, followed by your brand new move, Prominence, which both look really cool and do a decent amount of AoE damage as well. Then, of course, you still have your Invuln in the form of Hallowed Ground, which will make you impervious for 10 seconds. There is a tick after you use it, a server tick, before it takes effect. So keep that in mind. If you're taking a lot of damage, you need to use it a second before it looks like you're going to die. 2 seconds, preferably, instead of trying to use it at the moment that it looks like you're going to die. Then, of course, you're going to spend your gauge on Sheltron for yourself, or Intervention for a teammate to be able to take a hit for them, or Cover to be able to take more than 1 hit for them. But Sheltron is great for tank busters. It's absolutely amazing. Then, of course, last but not least, you have your Sentinels for damage reduced by 30%, Arm's Length for slowing enemies when they hit you after you've activated it, Reprisal to lower their damage, which is always useful, Interject to get in the way of their attacks and interrupt them, and then, of course, your Stun with Low Blow, and Shirk as the rest of your roll abilities. Taking so much easier now in Shadowbringers. Paladin is a blast to play because of that, and because of the kit and how well it synergizes with the idea of offense and defense at the same time. Again, at low levels, you're going to have some trouble with the defense side of things. You're going to have some times where you just don't have a cooldown to help soak that damage. But as soon as you get to 35 and you have access to Sheltron, you are then responsible for managing your cooldowns. You are responsible for making sure you have a Sheltron up for that tank buster. You have a Sheltron up for that stack mechanic, or once you get Intervention and Cover, you can cover somebody else that has a stack marker on them. Paladin is so good when it comes to utility, when it comes to damage, when it comes to being able to throw in a quick heal with Clemency. There is so much that Paladin can do. It is easily my favorite tank so far in the expansion, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. This is the best time to pick up the sword and board if you have not yet done so. With all that said, though, I have been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Paladin has to offer.